How do you heal from wounds that were never meant to be acknowledged? In this episode, Jen shares her journey through childhood trauma, motherhood, rage, and the challenge of breaking generational cycles. Together, we explore what it means to honor your truth, embrace your shadow, and redefine love on your own terms. Because healing isn't just about what happened to you, it's about what stops with you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soft Power Project. Today's guest, she grew up in Chinatown, San Francisco. She's the daughter of a Chinese immigrant family, and she checked every box. She got a STEM degree, stable career, and she also worked as a cancer research scientist. Really impressive resume. And yet, underneath it all, she felt unseen and a little bit lost. And she began the inner work after losing both parents and nearly losing herself. Jenn M. Choi is an author of Enough to Rise, and it's about healing from childhood trauma, breaking the generational cycle, and finally learning to claim her own worth. Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Sherry. It's such an honor to be here. I love what you're doing with Soft Power Project. Like your mission is next level and exactly what we need in the world right now. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I have to say thank you so much for your book. I feel like there's so much we can talk about, especially you're a child of immigrants, and I very much really resonate with that. And I think a lot of people from different culture also can really resonate with this as well. But I definitely wanted to ask you this because has been on my mind a lot. If I say the term filial piety, what does that mean to you? How does that make you feel? And understanding what that means, did you had to go through a bit of a journey yourself?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned in my book, Enough to Rise, and with such Chinese themes of the phoenix and the moon, I come
Yeah.
from a Chinese family, and in Asian culture, Chinese especially, filial piety is very, very, how can I say, dominant.
Yeah.
Loving, but sometimes
Mhm.
very oppressive, because what it means is you have to obey your elders no matter what, and especially the elders in your family. So if your mom says something, if your dad says something, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, you're under the pressure to kind of like obey their orders. And there's a hierarchy that traces back to what is it, like the Confucianism era that goes back way, 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 way back, where we must obey our
Mhm.
elders and others who are in higher powers than us, which really leads us to suppress parts of ourselves.
And, you wrote in a book that you said you thought you had a really, really happy childhood until you were in your 20s. And I really relate to that. So I wanted to ask you, what does it mean that you thought you had a really good childhood? Because I think it somehow relates to that concept that we're talking about, right? And I think I mispronounced it because I don't say it a lot. Is it called filial piety? Am I saying that right? Filial?
I don't
Filial?
even, filial piety, filial piety. What is it? We're not
Yeah,
sure,
I
but it's
don't know.
dominant and it's
Yeah.
there and we feel it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I had a happy childhood because kind of as a result of this term, we suppress our feelings. And another concept that's really important in Chinese culture and a lot of cultures, no matter what the term is saving face, where you don't want to bring shame to your family. So as a result, you want to be prideful. And so you put on this like happy face, everything's fine, no worries, that didn't impact me so much. And so what we end up doing is giving ourselves a story that we had happy childhoods and everything is fine, because when everything is fine, we are obedient. And I'm the eldest daughter, and the eldest daughter especially has to be obedient in an immigrant family. And so because of that, there was so much pressure to just say everything was good. And so I believed that everything was good. On top of that, I grew up, unfortunately, with neglect and abuse in my family. My parents loved me. I love my parents so, so, so much. And I have to recognize the truth that they also hurt me. And because of that neglect and abuse, I turned inward and it was too much for my body and my mind and my psyche to bear. So I suppressed it. So I really could remember happy memories from childhood for a very long time until I started going to therapy and it opened Pandora's box and it was fucking hell.
Oh my gosh. I definitely remembered that. And actually, I did not realize that until in my 30s, like late 30s, even just to go into therapy. And my therapist would be like, so she did that or he said that and you're okay with it. I'm like, oh, I get to be not okay with that. I had no idea. But I think it's so weird, right? Because there's so many layers to that where we have to be obedient and also like be grateful, right? Be grateful of what you have, be grateful of the life that you had, and be grateful that they give us a life or education and all that. I think like knowing that I have to be grateful and also at the same time, it's like, oh, yeah, I was hurt and it was hurtful and it was not okay. So I wanted to ask you, what was it like for you to recognize that and actually be okay to recognize that and accept that as a reality while knowing that you love them very much? Because to me, that's such a confusing idea.
It is so confusing, and I'm sorry for what you had to go through as well. So, girl, same. It wasn't until my 30s that I really recognized it. I think I'm in a semi-unique position slash maybe not so unique because we all lose our parents, but the bulk of my healing came after I lost my parents. I lost my dad to lung disease at 26 years old. And unfortunately, I then lost my mother not long later at 33 years old to blood cancer. And so it was confusing because first, I was very loyal to them and I didn't want to betray them. Okay. And then my parents had died. How could I speak so called badly about them? How could I say that I was hurt in any way when they did their best and they're not even alive to defend themselves? I can't call them. I can't bring them into a therapy session. So, like, it's almost like I was so confused about that hurt that I spent the first part of my healing journey making a lot of excuses and defending them. And my grief was so deep. Like my mother was the person that I loved most in my life. And I really saw her as a role model in so many ways that like kind of like my idol fell from the
Mm,
pedestal during my healing. And it was so incredibly painful for me. And
mm.
I had to learn that two truths can coexist at the same time, which is true for a lot of our relationships, actually, because people we love in romantic relationships, friendships, siblings, things like that, they can also hurt us, but it doesn't need to come from a place of intention or evil or anything like that. It's just in relationships we hurt, and it's like human nature. And it's just part of the human experience. So it was very layered and very, very complicated for me.
And I think you mentioned that it is true for all relationships that two truths can be, yeah, can be real and two realities could be, it's not so black and white. There's a lot of in between. And I was going to ask you how that journey itself, recognizing that reality with you and your parents and the reality of things, how that impact your relationship with others. Because I know you're a mom to a beautiful boy. How does that change how you see your relationship with other people?
I think I really had to awaken first to the fact that this complicated relationship with my mother, especially, but also with my father, ended up impacting my relationships where I had fear of abandonment, loss of sense of self, people-pleasing behaviors, overwork, burnout, control. Oh my God, I really needed to control things because, we all know control is an illusion, but hey, when you're running under your programming, it feels good, right? It feels like something that you can do. And this impacted so many facets of my relationships. And it was kind of like, fuck, I'm also hurting other people too. And not only in my romantic relationships, but also myself and my relationship to my own body and my health. And then when it comes to my child, the greatest period of healing was after I became a mother because I had committed before giving birth. I was literally pregnant and in therapy, and I was like, telling my therapist, I need to break the cycle before he's born, naively thinking that you could just break the cycle because you decide to, and it would just like, bam, happen
Mm,
overnight. Because, I mean, obviously that was very delusional. But when he was born, I saw a lot of my mother in me. She had intense rage. And when I was born, I had postpartum rage where I would get really angry, not only at my kid, but myself and my husband. And it was very, very destructive and heartbreaking. And the question was, how could it be that I suffered at the hands of this rage and I am almost passing it down? And I just felt so fucking helpless and ashamed and horrible. And at the same time, I knew that this was the journey I was meant to be on to break the cycle of generational trauma. And that's why I wrote a book about it. And it took so many years.
I mean, I think just like you said, yeah, I also naively thought that breaking the cycle, just like taking a scissor and you cut it and it's done, right? But oh my God. But I think for us as women, we see our mothers through us, our action, our emotion, our everything. The words sometimes I said, I'm like, wait a second, was that my mom? But you mentioned the rage, and I think it's really hard for people to admit that we have rage, just in general. But as a mom, as a new mom, to have rage, I think it's even harder. So I have to say thank you so much for saying that out loud, because I think we paint the picture as new moms supposed to be floating, right? With so much love and glow. But do you mind kind of go back in time during that time just to kind of tell us a little bit about what that feels like and what set you off? Or was it any specific triggered or just kind of just there?
It was triggered by exhaustion, but it was triggered by looking at my sweet, innocent baby. And maybe you understand because you're a mother as well, that we deserve so much when we are kids. We deserve attention, time, love, patience, and most of all, we are allowed and should be allowed to express our feelings and needs, which I did not feel like I was allowed to do as a child. So watching my son grow and express needs and cry was so triggering to me because I was taught not to cry, to sit there and to be a good, little, quiet, obedient girl. And so I had all this pain come flooding back, and how that pain communicated and expressed was like, fuck you, fuck
Mm,
this, like
mm,
slamming things.
mm,
So my mother had hit me, and I don't hit because that's a boundary. But
yeah.
I would definitely yell, I would smash things, and it would be quite violent in its nature. I'll be honest with you. It's like you don't have to hit to be violent. You don't have to hit a person to be violent. And that's what it was. And so it was really like I had a split personality. It felt like a different person would possess me and completely take over. And afterwards, it would be like, anyway, so what are we having for dinner? And I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on? What is wrong with me? And later, I came to really understand that shadow part of me, which even has a name. So my name is Jenn, and backwards it would be Nej, and it's like backwards Jenn. So this like alter ego had a name. My shadow part had a name, Nej. And over time, I finally came to love and integrate my shadow. But it was so much hard work. And I don't know if maybe that resonates with you or you've had this part in you before.
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, when I had my baby, and I was very much alone because I actually at the same time my mom had to go to the hospital. Yeah, she suddenly had some illness, and I was really scared, but I was also very, very alone. And I think that rage definitely took over. But I think I was really scared of myself during that time. And you
Hmm.
probably know what I'm talking about. It's like I had that rage, and but there's a baby, she needs me, but I don't, like, I just feel like I don't know who I am. And I think that was really the time I'm just like, something needs to be done, but I don't know what it is. And this is no one has told me about this ever. There, there's no books ever talked about this. There is a lot of parenting books, but boy, they are useless during that time.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a really universal experience that we have to talk about more, just rage in general and rage as a woman, because we are allowed to have rage and we are allowed to be angry, but it's about working with anger healthily and and not suppressing it and really getting in touch with that. Because when we push it aside, it just grows like a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just wondering, like, do you think that rage, and then you talked about control. I mean, for me, I feel like the rage sometimes is because I felt like I could not control things anymore. There was no like solution or plans that I get to control. Like, my baby doesn't want to eat. I don't know what to do, or it doesn't want to sleep. I don't know what to do. There doesn't seem to be anything that I could do. I think that manifested from just lack of control or knowing that I don't have control. What about for you?
Yeah, that absolutely resonates with me because I think it's about power and powerlessness. And for example, at least in my case, there was times when I was alone in an apartment at around 4 years old. I didn't know when my parents would come home.
Mm.
And of course, this is deeply scary for a child, but I had happy memories there because I suppressed it so deep. And in those moments, you're really helpless and you're extremely powerless. When we're yelled at by our parents and told we're not good enough and we'll never be good enough and we're fat and we're stupid and we're hit, we have a sense of powerlessness because our parents, for anyone listening to this podcast who's experienced neglect or abuse from their parents, my heart really goes out to you because it means that we really do feel powerless. And later, when something happens, like we become a parent and we see any situations where we lose control and we're powerless, it's so triggering. You're not 30 something years old, 40
Hmm.
something years old, 50 something years old anymore. You're 4, 5, 6, and maybe even a baby. And that's why it's really important to become conscious of our triggers and really work with that rage and pain, because once we do, there's so much amazing life, love, and power to unlock beyond our wildest dreams.
And after writing the book and done a lot of work, do you think you still have any residual rage sometimes?
Of course, the journey is continuing. The journey is always continuing because if you think about it, when people like you and I hadn't gone to therapy until later, a lot has been stored in the body and in the psyche and in the spirit and energetically. And so healing is not about the complete omission of our triggers or our behaviors like rage. It's accepting them and recognizing that when it comes, how to deal with it and de-escalate. And I have learned, thankfully, in trying to break the cycle and working with so much generational trauma, like I know that this rage isn't unique to me. It's come from my parents who went through so much in their own childhood in China and my ancestors as well. And so I know that this is like a sacred rage. And that's helped me love it more and appreciate it because it helps me connect me to my ancestors. But at the same time, I'm like, I am now in this lifetime as an adult, and I can choose in the present moment to work with this and say, hey, when I'm like, for me, it shows up
Mm,
as like, and I'm like, when I clench my jaw, I'm like, oh
I
shit,
see. Mm,
I need to take a step back because my rage is about to explode. And I've done things like use humor with my kid. Like if I'm super mad, suddenly I'll crack a joke and then everything will be fine and then it'll diffuse.
mm. And you mentioned that word to love it, to love the rage and to kind of appreciate it. I think that is, I mean, it's not something I would ever thought that I should do, but I think, like you said, when you appreciate it and knowing where it came from, it's a lot easier to let it go, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important things about shadow work, which is getting in touch
Uh,
with your shadow, is understanding like who is protecting the inner child? Like what shadow parts are protecting your inner child and starting to love them and appreciate them. I have been in meditation and where I have thanked this rage or this shadow, which looks like a person with long hair and a sword and this like long robe. And it was like a dark goddess, you know? And really saying thank you for protecting me. And all the other parts, the people pleaser, the controller, the like 50 different parts that came to protect our inner child that became parts of our personality rather than exiling them. Yeah, just really love is the answer. I mean, it really is the answer.
wow. Yeah. Having a lot of grace and even the scariest part. And I think a lot of times it's we try to avoid it, avoid looking at that part because it's so scary to look at or it's just so like shameful to look at it. But I love what you said about that. And I think that reminds me that I need to just give myself more grace. Like you said, it's a journey, right? This is a healing journey. I'm really interested because I feel like, we're talking about control, we're talking about reparenting, but I wanted to explore this modeled minority concept with you because I definitely feel like you are, you have your resume is beautiful. Such a,
Thank you.
you had the education, the career path, and you're an author. Like you're kicking butts. Like you set the example for everyone and all women everywhere. But I wanted to know kind of how you see that before the healing and how you see that now.
Yeah, I think this is such a beautiful question because we often think the things on paper or on LinkedIn
Mm.
are what make us valuable and worthy and enough. And that's how I spent so much of my youth, like hustling, getting promotions, starting my own consultancy, becoming a project manager after being a cancer researcher, becoming a coach, writing a book, doing all these things. And even while I was writing the book at the beginning, it took me 5 years to write my book on reclaiming self-worth and breaking the cycle of generational trauma. And at the beginning, girl, let me tell you, I was like, the marker of success is it's going to be a New York Times best-selling book. Like all the publishers are going to want it. And like so many agents are just going to like be dying to get my book. Like even at the beginning of my book journey, I was still in that place of external validation and proving myself because I did not actually feel genuinely worthy and enough at an embodied level yet. I did not. Like mentally, I was like, yeah, I am enough. But from an embodied
Yeah.
standpoint of my patterns and behaviors and my thinking, it was very far from that. And as I went deep into my healing and getting into like a lot of different things, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, like somatic work, therapy, coaching, psychedelics, through all that work and learning about my family's passed down trauma and everything, I was like, fuck. It was
Mm.
like your whole sense of worldview is shaken because for a lot of us, we built this like mask. We built this like fake persona, not because we consciously built a fake persona, but we built a persona with a mask on that was like, I am trying to be perfect. I'm happy. I'm successful. Like, look at this on my resume.
Uh-huh.
But in the end, it doesn't mean shit if we are not happy with ourselves and we feel genuinely good without performing. And when I mean genuinely good without performing, it's like, how do you feel about rest?
Mm.
How do you
Mhm.
feel about creating work that nobody sees? Because while writing this book, nobody saw it for multiple years except for my editor and my accountability partner, Savannah. And so it was like, oh no, there's nobody there to pat me on the back. There's nobody there to tell me that it's good. I had so many rejections from agents. I even had rejections from publishers, and some of them told me, your writing
Mm.
is good,
Mm.
but your platform is not large enough to bring this to the masses. Or I'll pass, this isn't for me. Or some just never responded at all. And having to deal with that rejection was really worldview crashing because you know, girl, we have been performing for a very long time with this persona. And so after the healing, when the book was finally released, and I knew why it had to take so long because I needed to become and embody the person that could really stand behind my book. By the time the book was released, I was like, success to me is knowing that I wrote this book and I am breaking the cycle for my family and myself. And I want to empower others, and I have to trust that it's going to reach people even though I self-published and did not go a traditional path at all. And I still sometimes struggle, though. I'll be honest with you. It's still a struggle sometimes for my old persona and my ego to be like, oh my God, why isn't it selling more copies? Like, why? I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. But in the end, obviously, it's valuable to
Mhm.
do work and to create. And so I really appreciate what you're doing creating this podcast because you're uplifting voices and your work is valuable no matter how many followers you have or views you have or listens you have.
Mm. Thank you for saying that because everything you described, oh yeah, that's for sure. I feel like you had basically, starting Soft Power Project. I felt like last year was so many ego death. Just one after another. I mean, just like you said, it's like sometimes you feel very lonely. Sometimes you feel like no one's listening to my, like who's listening? I don't know. Who resonate with me? I really don't know. But yeah, that really cracked me open. But it had to be done. Almost feel
Hmm.
like I'm really grateful that I went through so many ego death one after another. Um, but I mean, first of all, 5 years. Let me just say, you have tremendous resilience. That's just incredible. And be able to stay on track and just like, I'm going to do this for me, not for the performance side of me, but for me. That's absolutely incredible. And I can definitely see that. I can see that in your work, and I can also see that from you talking about it. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think a lot of people feel like, especially these days, when you're promoting yourself on social media, you're pouring your heart out. But sometimes you feel like, oh my God, who is looking? And I still cringe. I still cringe all the time.
Yeah. I think especially with social media now, it's really hard because we're like, some people chase the algorithm, and we have to remember that creation is worthy. And there was something else that you touched upon that I really want to just speak to really quickly, is that like I worked for 5 years on it. There was so much discipline. I want to say that our trauma can also give us superpowers as well. Like I am disciplined and I know how to almost like scold myself and keep in line because that had happened to me in my family. So I'm able to execute in a way that feels like one of my superpowers. So for anyone listening, it's like we also have so many gifts from our programming as well. It's not something to just push aside and say, hey, this trauma is just like crap. It's like it also gave us a lot of gifts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like you had the trauma on one shoulder and then this loving side of you, the that on the other shoulder and constantly talking to each other?
I literally, yes. I think I literally at some time point was people are like, oh, how's the book going? I'm like, I'm in a fight with myself all the time. The like higher self who's like, you know, all is good. I trust in the universe.
Oh my
Like,
God.
oh, just like act from a place of love. And then there was like, bitch, you better be getting out there. You ain't promoting. Like, what is going on? Are you sitting on your ass? Like, look at these sales. Like, what is happening? And then I'm like, these two parts were fighting with myself. I was like, and then what I realized that it's like, in a way, the parts needed to be integrated. And instead of like fighting with each other and saying like, well, you're not loving and trusting enough. Well, you're not executing enough. They needed to be together and like yin and yang, like yin and yang in our culture. It needs to be like a harmonic balance. And I think when you balance like the amazing divine aspects of the divine masculine, the ability to execute, hunt, lead, like be hungry, get out there, these like divine masculine components, and the divine feminine of like trusting, surrendering, nurturing, loving. When you combine the two of them, it's even more powerful. But they still fight.
And I think accept that they will fight. Tell me, what are the things that you do to help you to find that balance? Because, oh my God, yeah, that's me literally every single day. Like, you gotta trust the universe. And then the other side of me, it's like, how do you trust? So you should do this and this and this, right? It's like constantly fighting. But yeah, what do you do to calm yourself down to get to that place where they can integrate?
It is so much. It's astounding work. I commend you for being in this fight with yourself and working with it, because some people don't, they just let it take over. They let the programming take over.
Mm.
So I find what's really important to me is really grounding myself. So recently I'm like so in love with going in nature, like literally like touching the trees, closing my eyes, and I'm like, I feel you, tree. So just being in nature, being by open bodies of water, because our bodies are made of water, and water is a great way to kind of move the energy. And looking into the expanse of a lake or an ocean or a stream, or hell, if you're not by any body of water, you can go into your bathtub, right? And really regulate your nervous system and really connect to like, okay, because our bodies are really wise. And I just want to mention that on the healing journey, it's not just about therapy and coaching and the stuff that's like in the mind. It's also at a deeply somatic level of feeling safety in your nervous system. So your body has to feel safe, especially if you've been through incredible amounts of trauma. You have to teach your body that it can be safe. So things like going into nature, meditating, journaling, like OG journaling, like literally with a pen, a paper, onto like spilling your words out. You can really get in touch with like the more loving parts of yourself and tune into that. And I would say, yeah, I mean, even with all those tools, still like going to therapy and being heard. And if somebody doesn't have access to a therapist and can't afford it, being really deeply listened to a friend can really help a lot, because sometimes the side just needs to speak and express. And once that's out, it's released and it's acknowledged. And you can kind of return to a place where you're like, okay, that just needed to release. And I'm safe and I'm protected and I got myself. So, I mean, I could go hours and hours about this. But you can read my book, Enough to Rise, where I talk about so many different healing modalities that return you back to yourself, to this really loving self where you're an adult and you can take care of you. And you are so powerful and so amazing. All of us.
Yeah. And I need to ask you this because I've seen on your social media content that you are, and also music. Music is incredibly healing for you, right? And I know that you actually, yeah, participated in a lot of, was it music festival? I know Rave is like really big part of you.
Thank you so much for asking about this. This is probably
Yeah.
one of my favorite topics of all time. Yeah. I found raving when I was a
Mm.
teen, and it has given me so much love and energy, because when we're on the dance floor, we're like releasing, we're shaking it off, like, well,
Mm.
more like this,
Yep.
we're
Hmm.
shaking it off, and we're moving through our bodies. And not only that, but we're moving with others on the dance floor. And it's my
Hmm.
belief that when we're on the dance floor, we're healing at a collective and energetic level when souls get together and we are dancing and we are uniting to the music and we are together as one. We can tap back into the divine love where we are created from and which we all embody. And so dancing and really like letting your inner child free and not giving a shit about how you look and just dance crazily, wear insane outfits. Like it's like a practice of
Mm.
bringing the inner child out. And raving and dancing has been so healing for me. And I've also made so many amazing friends on the dance floor. And that speaks to also the importance of community as well when we're
Wow.
healing.
Mm. I've never thought about dancing together and how that actually is very healing as well. And that is a community that you're talking about. And when I look at you when you're dancing, I think you put on Instagram, I just look at this beautiful girl who's just so colorful and so free and having so much fun. And I'm just like, wow, I love that. I just feel like we should always have that very childlike energy, right? Because I think when you're dancing with the music, I feel like that's part of you living your inner child.
Absolutely. And I hope that we can dance together in person one day.
Oh,
Honestly, that would be
yeah.
so much fun. I would hug you so much and we would dance so hard. And we would be doing like shamanic work on the dance floor. Because, in ancient shamanic lineages and just like ancient cultures, in any indigenous culture, like dancing is incredibly powerful to do the work in kind of a collective format. Really, really
Mm,
powerful work.
mm. Wow. Yeah, I never thought about that. I'm definitely going to look into that. I think that's so cool. And I was wondering, like, in terms of this, actually, this how you express yourself and how you bring yourself to balance. How much of that have you shared with your son, or have you kind of introduced that to him? Because I'm really curious about what kind of mom you are now to your son. Because I know you're an absolutely incredible mom doing so much inner work. But yeah, what's that journey like? You know, how do you define yourself as a mom before, and how do you define yourself as a mom now?
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. And I see you too as a mother. I really see you too as a mother,
Thank
like
you.
really deep
Oh.
within.
Mm.
So I think now I'm just a much more present mother.
Mm.
And I think that's what really, really makes all the difference in the world. Because when I was young, my parents didn't have time to play with me, right? Because they had been struggling as immigrants in America, and they had to work and hustle, and they had to work and
Mm.
hustle because they went through so much in their own childhood that work was also necessary as a distraction as well. And so there's so much there. And so being present and playing is actually one of the most powerful things that we can do for our children, and be really, really present. I encourage him to do art. So we do watercolor together. And tonight we're going to do glitter pens together because my mother was an artist. And so, it sometimes is really hard to be present and not scroll on my phone. I kind of have an addiction to my phone, unsurprisingly. I've had many different addictions in my life, including work, and now I'm unfortunately on my phone a lot, which I have to admit, I have to like remember to put it aside and be present. And really, when I'm present, I can be there for his needs. Like he's like, Mama, I need you. Mama, I love you. And, really be in tune with his feelings, like deeply listening to his feelings without getting triggered, right? Like, I understand that you're upset with your crazy, nonsensical tantrums. That's it's like triggering so much rage in me. I just want to explode. But I understand you're upset, honey. You know, being there for all of that is kind of how I've changed as a mother now that I've done so much of my healing work. And, in the end, children really want to be seen. Like they really, really want to be seen. They literally say, Mama, can you see me? Mama, why aren't you seeing me? And when we're present, we can really look at them and say, I'm here. And we can say to our inner child, I'm here. I'm here.
Mm.
Maybe somebody wasn't there for me when I was young, but I'm here for me now. And so when we are with our children and we're present with ourselves. And that's the biggest gift for everyone.
Oh, I love it for you mentioning that, because I think that is the most important thing, and be able to be present and not feel guilty or feel like you have to run back to work, because that's kind of how I was before when I was a new mom. I just always feel guilty when I'm with my kid and I'm not working, or when I'm working and I feel guilty that I'm not with my kid. It's that constant feeling like I'm just not doing enough somehow, always failing. But I think it's such a powerful thing to just be present. And like you said, actually there, listen to them, not trying to fix things, right? And just to listen. And that's kind of been really, really fun for me. And I just feel like thank you so much for reminding people, because honestly, that's really important. And I have to ask, since we're Asian, will you ever define yourself as a tiger mom, or you're so far away from that?
Wow. Yeah. Important question. I think I'm really far away from that now because this healing journey has taught me that there's been so much in our societal programming. I'm not just talking about familial or cultural programming at this time point, but also at a societal level. And I don't think it's healthy to drive our kids to this like submission. And I don't see myself as a tiger mom. I see myself as a rave mom or as like a fun mom, very
Mm.
serious mom. I'm still a very serious mom, and I still like set boundaries and stuff like that because there's also such a thing as permissive parenting, where you continually violate your own boundaries as well, which is a whole ass topic of its own. But I don't see myself as a tiger mom. I can't say when he gets older whether my inner teen might come up and I might become a tiger mom. I can't promise anybody anything that my programming or unresolved things from teenhood might not take over, but I will do my best to give him the most present mom I can with as little
Mm.
tigering as I can.
Oh, yeah, I don't see myself as a tiger mom at all. I feel like I'm really, really far away from that. But like you said, we don't know because again, we're still on this journey and my daughter's 12 and it has been a very interesting year because her being rebellious or just speaking up, speaking her mind, that has been really different for me because I never get to do that. And that was a whole different triggers or healing that I had to do for myself. So yeah, I think that's okay. We're still, we're human. It's
Um, I
fine.
think I think we
Mhm.
have a lot to learn from you. I'm like, I'll look
Oh,
to you and some more content about this as my kid gets older because I know it's going to be such a ride. So, congratulations to you for being able to break your cycle as well and not be a tiger mom and be really present, even with a teen. Well, not quite tween. Is it tween when
yeah,
it's 12?
yeah. Hmm.
Being with a tween daughter, like, props to you, mama. Props to you.
Thank you. We have a lot to. No, honestly, I have a lot to learn from you, especially your journey writing the book. I think yeah, it says so much about your resilience and discipline. And I just wanted to ask you again, I ask this question to every single one of my guests. What is your definition of soft power at this point in your life?
Mm, yeah. Soft power to me means being able to look at our pain and work with and release the old programming so that we can really get in touch with our divine feminine power. Because underneath the persona and the mask and all the bullshit, like underneath, there's true power that comes from a place of love and not fear. And it comes from a place of abundance, not lack. And it's in all of us. But first, we kind of have to go through that hellish journey of looking at our shadows and our wounds. And I really believe that that's what we need right now to tap into that kind of soft power so that we can connect more and be with each other and really like liberate ourselves from our programming, but also liberate others in this time of collective healing.
Mm, mm. Yeah, thank you so much for talking about collective healing. I do feel like we're all in this together, no matter where we are. Women are in this together, and it feels quite nice that we're not alone in this journey.
Yeah, we're never alone. And the topics that you and I talked about today are universal topics. Even though we come from Chinese heritage or Asian heritage, like these themes are universal and we're never alone.
Never
Yeah.
alone. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure, and I just feel like I've learned so much from you, and I honestly cannot wait to see, your second book. Are you working on the second book, perhaps?
This book took so much out of me. It was like a multi-dimensional, multi-lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
multi-generational, arduous
Mm,
birth of this
mm-hmm.
thing. And I
Mm,
tell everyone I hope to write a children's book or a lighter book next time because I'm in a place where it's like, who am I beyond my trauma? And I think there's this like person who is so creative and artistic, and I want to explore that whimsical part of me more to create, to really create, rather than do more deep, crazy healing work. But we all know life is really unpredictable and out of our control. So who knows what life will bring? So I tell everybody, I hope I don't have to write another memoir meets inner guide. I hope I get to write lighter things in the future, but we don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to either one of them. Actually, I can definitely see that you're talking about something lighter and more creative because I see a lot of that in you right now. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sherry, and your podcast for being a mirror and a light and a place to share for so many people. You're really uniting a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you.